Well, we got a little bit of a different view of the Cutlass going on here, don't we? Stick around, I'll tell you what's going on. All right, here's my story, and it's typical old car woes. Uh, Last weekend, Janet and I were driving around in the Cutlass, and when we make a turn from a stop, like at a four-way stop, we get some weird clunking and chattering. At first, I thought it was maybe posi chatter, and I did dump the rear diff fluid, and in no way did that smell like it had any posi additive in it. So I dumped and refilled it, and I put the additive in, and it was pretty good for a while. And then Thursday, it did it again one more time. So now I'm really asking myself, what's going on? Is that just posi chatter or is it something else? Also, when I was digging into it, I found out one of the brakes wouldn't adjust. The adjuster was stuck. That brake was pretty hot, and I was messing around with it. And while I was messing around with it, the master cylinder, not the master, the wheel cylinder started to leak. So that's just great. So I've decided I probably need to do the rear brakes, and since I'm going to be in that far, I'm going to do the rear wheel bearings. Interesting thing, this is an Oldsmobile and a quote type O rear end, so this is a GM 8.5-inch rear end, but it's not a normal GM 8.5-inch rear end. It's got 12 bolts on the diff cover, but it's got 10 on the ring gear. The ring gear is 8.5, but none of the parts interchange with the corporate 10 bolt like, say, your second gen Camaro or 70s Nova has in it. So the offshoot of that is I really just got to get the brake drums off, and then I can pull the axle shafts out. I don't even have to dump my freshly changed diff fluid because there's no C-clips in this thing. So I'll bring you along, show you what I got going on. All right, I'll give you a little bit of a lowdown on this Oldsmobile 8.5 rear end here. So, it indeed does have 12 bolts on the cover, but it is not a corporate 12 bolt. So, we'll start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 bolts. Inside, it's an 8.5 diameter ring gear with 10 bolts on it. And it does not have C-clips, which I will show you when I get the axles out. So it's one of those things. It was before they commonized to the corporate 10 bolt like my Camaro has. But it is what it is. And once again, no C-clips. It uses the wheel bearings at the ends to retain the axles, much like a Dana 44. All right, show you my goodies I got going here. So, this drum, I took it off. Big chunk out of it. I don't know how that can be in balance. I mean, that's iron. So I got new drums. Surprisingly cheap. They were $33 a piece plus tax. No shipping, because Amazon. And they're the exact right drum. At least they sure look like it. So that makes me really happy. So, drum, and then I mentioned the wheel cylinder. I'll get that out of the box later. I want to keep it clean. But the wheel cylinder, when I was working over here on this area, started to leak. Well, once it starts to leak, I'll never trust it again. So that's got to go. And since I'm doing that, I'll do new shoes and new hardware kit as well. So hardware kit right there. And then I have a Timken Set 9. This is a wheel bearing set. And once again, I don't want to open it up yet. I'll show you when we get there. But very similar to a Set 10 that you would use on a Dana 44 from the 70s or 80s. It's a bearing plus a wetting ring. And then here's the oil seal for the axle. So that's all my stuff. Oh, yeah, and shoes. I forgot to order shoes. But the lovely Janet is on her way into town to pick up some shoes. They actually had them in stock at my local O'Reilly's, so that's pretty good. All right, so I'll bring you back when I get somewhere. But for now, I'm going to kind of pan across and kind of use this as like taking a picture of the brakes and how they go together. So, all right, I just took the brakes off, and even from that little bit of jostling, one side of that wheel cylinder is leaking already. Those are shot. You know, how many miles till they're just leaking going down the road? Probably about 0. And here's the shoes and all the hardware and stuff. The hardware kit did not come with new adjusters, but I can usually free those up and do some anti-seize magic and make them work. And holy cow, are the mosquitoes coming out. This may be about it for tonight. Although I do want to kind of pull the axle out. So we'll see how I feel about that. All right, here's the shaft popped out. This is the bearing, of course. Here's the seal. That is the wedding ring. That's a very tight press fit. To get that off, you got to do something like grind it or drill it and chisel it to split it. Kind of a pain in the butt. But you can see I used the old brake drum as a slide hammer there, and she popped right out. And then for all the... If you're a naysayer and you think that this Oldsmobile has C-clips, well, you're crazy, because I just popped that right out. And look, there's no C-clip button on the end of that. Yep, it's a 28 spline shaft, but there are no C-clips, and that's not a C-clip eliminator kit. This is all factory stuff. All right, I'm going to halt progress right there for the night. Mosquitoes are getting just about thick enough to pick me up and carry me away. And as you can see, it's getting kind of dark, not the best for filming. Got a couple of hours till sundown, but the sun's behind my trees, so it's all in the shade here. Anyways, that's where we're stopping. We've got the driver's side torn down, except for I still need to change out that wheel cylinder. That'll be the first thing I do in the morning. And then after the wheel cylinder, it'll be on to wheel bearings on that axle shaft there, and then we'll be on the upside and start putting things back together. So we'll see you in the morning. Well, it's next morning and I'm back at it. Here we are with the whole drum brake setup on. You can see brand new wheel cylinder. Got a little anti-seize going down there on that adjuster. So next step is to do the wheel bearings and seal. And then I can button this side up. All I'll have left to do over here is bleed it. All right, with the brakes taken care of, we're back in the shop. We got the axle set up in the vise, and we got to get this wedding ring off here, and then we can get the bearing and finally get the seal off. And we're going to be very careful to note the orientation of each of these pieces as it comes apart. So the wedding ring, I've seen people do this deal where they just drill into it, whack it with the chisel, and it splits. I've never tried it. I have always just come in with the cutoff wheel, cut through the wedding ring, cut through the bearing, because I'm not reusing that bearing either, and then it just comes apart. But, you know, I think I'm going to try this chisel thing once, or this drill and then chisel. Let's see how that goes, and if it doesn't work, well, we're back to the grinder. So I'll get you set up on a tripod, and let's see what happens here. All right, here we are. First thing I'm going to do is just center punch this thing. And this is my good Starrett automatic center punch. Let me tell you, if you're going to buy one of these automatic center punches, get the Starrett. It hardly costs any more than the awful knockoff, and it works a lot better. The tip's a lot harder. Everything's better with the Starrett. All right, let's see how this works. Let's spin it up a little faster. Oh wow, that's soft. Just going to keep an eye on it. I don't want to drill into the shaft itself. All right. So when I grind these, when it lets go, there's a loud crack. So not sure what to expect with this whole drilling thing. All right, got my cold chisel set out. Mayhew, made in the USA. Really, once again, hardly costs any more than the cheapest overseas junk. There's the hammer I want. So we'll see if we hear this thing go crack like I expect. Not from that web. Let's try this inner web. There we go. She's loose. Well, that worked pretty good. That worked pretty good indeed. Just got to release the press on that and then good. Huh. Look at that groove in the shaft. That's a little weird, isn't it? I don't know what's up with that. All right, I'm over here at the press. You can see she's a pretty long setup, but let's knock that bearing off of there. All right, here's how this came off. So here's the wedding ring. Looks like the small end, and then the big end was out towards the seal. So we'll put it back together that same way. Well, I'm back here at the car already. Yeah, you just saw me knock the wheel bearing off, but I've made an executive decision to increase my efficiency. I'm not going to raise that work table all the way up on the press and then drop it down and raise it up again. I'm going to get this axle out right now. So basically, I just got to get this drum off and take off those 4 bolts. I can get the axle out, and then we'll knock the bearing off of this one too. Yeah. Just that one. Why? I don't know. Must be just a little rusty. All right, here's how you get your axle shaft out. Put on 3 lug nuts. Just like that. All right, round 2 on bearing removal. All right, that's as far through as that goes. Cold chisel. Right. All right, there's that. Split the wedding ring off. Now, over to the press. Just a wild guess, but this wheel bearing might have needed replacing. I mean, everything just fell apart when I took it off the shaft. Not good. All right, let's get this thing back together. So, I've given the shaft a good cleaning, and retainer plate is in place, and I never took it off. Next comes the oil seal. Oh, really nice fit. All right, next is this washer. So you can probably see the washer's got a big radius on it. No radius on the other side. Radius goes away from the bearing. That matches the axle shaft. There's a radius on there. All right, the bearing. after examining the used bearings, including the one that came apart, I will tell you that one side has, well, it's actually got the radius on it, so those are not the same as the earlier ones. One side's square, one side's got the radius. Now I'm questioning if I use this radius washer or not. I got some measuring to do. I'll be back and I'll show you the results. Okay, so here on the left, we have the new bearing, which if I measure across the inner race, the thickness is 0.8, well, basically 807, a little bit of grease in there. Here's the old one with that washer, and if I measure with that washer, it's 755. So I'm telling you right now, can't add this washer on, and the new bearing has the radius carved into one side of it already, so you don't need it. So one side's square on the inside here, this side is square, this side is radius. Drop it on radius first. Then wedding ring. So I'm going to go over and press this bearing on all the way before I drop the wedding ring on, and then I'm going to clean it with brake clean so the wedding ring doesn't have a bunch of grease underneath it. All right, getting the grease off. What the hell am I using? Engine degreaser. Get me brake cleaner. All right, a little brake clean action. Just putting it on the rag, just because I want to just get the wedding ring area clean, don't want to wash the grease out of the bearing. All right, there's that. I figure there's a reason why the wedding ring is bagged separately and not full of grease. I figure they don't want any grease on it, around it. All right. And over to the press. All right, over here at the press, you can see I got the wedding ring. You can see the wedding ring would fall right through the hole in the arbor plate. I don't have an arbor plate with that specific size hole, so I've just got it offset, and that should work fine. Done it 100 times with different stuff, and we're just going to seat her. Just going to run her down. There we go. Permanently installed until you cut it off. All right, let's take a close-up look. So there's the seal. Nice and snug on the shaft. Wedding ring's on. Everything's tight, flush, up to the shoulders. I couldn't be happier with that. I do want to note, this bearing was pre-packed from Timken, so I didn't try to repack it. It does get lube when you drive it down the road. It gets gear lube in it. So that ought to be plenty until I go around a corner and get a little gear lube splashed in there. I wonder what Lonnie and Dennis are up to today. I know what Farley's up to. Lazy Labrador. All right, so back to the driver's side with the bearing and everything pressed on. It's super hard to see what's going on in there with the shoes. Yeah, you can see one stud down there, I think. And there's the 4 studs that retainer plate's on. I got to put nuts on them. The old nuts were looking kind of worse for the wear. Corners are getting kind of rounded. I got new ones. 4 brand new nuts as opposed to 4 rusty nuts. And we'll just zip her together. I don't think it's very camera worthy. Well, I was just about to slap those drums on and start adjusting the brakes, and it occurred to me, why am I not painting these? Do I want them to rust up? I mean, I like this look. Got some wheel paint left over from the wheels. It's not the right color. It won't look like gray cast iron, but, you know, it'll keep her from rusting. So, we're going with it. Yeah, it'll work. Little progress on those rotors. I did grab some cheap black and tone them down a little bit. They look a lot more like actual cast iron now. Yeah, I was a little sloppier on them than I was on the wheels, but they're largely hidden. So with that said, I'm going to do the drum brakes on the other side, which involves everything I did on the first side. And this side, we've actually got better lighting. I've got some lights installed over my shoulder here. So let's get into this. Well, there you go. Passenger side, wheel cylinder's leaking. So good thing I did this, and that passenger side wheel bearing wasn't looking very good either. Little preventative maintenance, it's always a good thing. Well, new hard lines weren't really in the plan, but I guess they are now. All right, on to adjusting the drums. Pretty loose. So what I do is I just adjust them till I can, you know, barely get the thing on. All right, that's too much. All right, good enough for now. I may reach in through that adjuster hole later and either back it off or whatever. But just a little bit tight. Well, I guess I got to fix the brake lines before I go on a test drive. I'll show you what I got going on real quick. First is my master cool kit. You can see what the number is there, 72485. And what this thing is a hydraulic tubing bender. So this does double flares. It does push to connect fuel. Probably does some other stuff I've never even used it for. But boy, is it nice, especially for fuel lines. So next thing, it's your basic brake fitting assortment. And this thing saved my bacon more than a few times. And then I got my box of my various types of tubing. And today, I think we're going to try the copper nickel steel brake line. People say it's more corrosion resistant. It's fully approved. It's good to use. It bends easier. I don't know. I've never heard a bad word about it. I've heard it's just a lot easier to use than the steel line. So I could use a win, like a lot easier to use than steel line today. So let's get after it. All right, so here's how this kit works. So you've got your outside holding pieces. Put them in with that recessed area out to the far side. Then you're going to just bring your tube right up to that. That's what this little guy here is for. This little plastic or metal flap. Just make sure you're up tight. You're flush to the outside. Give her a nice little clamp. Now, next is this guy. This does the first half of the flare. And they say to thread this up nice and easy by hand. Not so sure on that. There we go. Doesn't take much pressure, especially with this copper nickel steel stuff. Holy cow. I can't believe how soft it is. It feels softer than dead soft copper. Alright, now we will take that out. Now we're going to use the cone to finish it. Same deal. Run it up my hand a ways. Close your valve. Don't go crazy on the pressure or you'll split it. Just like that. Just a little bit of hand tight. There we go. That's a nice looking flare there. Really nice. Much easier to do than steel. All right, I'm going to measure out my length and cut my other end. All right, got those new lines on, which you can see go right up to shiny new wheel cylinders on each side. No leak danger now. The rest of the lines, can't really see it up there because it's dark under here, but they look pretty good. They don't have the corrosion issues those back lines had. So we're going to go with that. The lovely Janet will assist me in bleeding the brakes, and this will be wrapped up. Well, that's a wrap on part 6. It's actually a couple days after I did all that work, and I put 80 miles on it, and no pops, clicks, or bangs. So the wheel bearings were indeed the culprit there, and the peace of mind from having the brakes fixed is awesome. And Farley loves that this thing is daily driver capable. So I absolutely love this car. I hope you're enjoying this series, and I hope you like the car as much as I do. Boy, what a great car. So anyways, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up on the video, leave me some comments, and we'll see you at the car shows.